Hi, I'm going to show you how you create a rubric in a Google form. The rubric sample that I can show you would be something like this, a 4-point scale, categories going down. This one's a rather short rubric, but certainly you could have more categories. You could have a 5 or 6-point scale. I tend to use 4-point scales. This rubric, of course, would have been shared with students and parents. We would have gone over it in class. I would have had project samples, and we would have gone over this beforehand. Anyway, from Google Docs, we're going to create a form, and we want to give it a title, and optional to have any sort of description right here. You could do that if you wanted to. Google Forms will default to 2 sample questions, so you can fill those out. And now before I actually set up the rubric, I do want a section where I have the student name. And I actually use nick numbers, but certainly you could have last names, you could have student ID numbers, whatever works for you. And I like to choose from a list, so it's kind of a drop-down list. And then I usually put select one so I don't forget, and then I just add those nick numbers. Every time I hit return, it gives me a new area, and I'm just going to stop there. You get the point. You just go all the way down to your nick numbers. I do make this required so I don't forget to select one of my students, and done. For my next question, I'm going to use the edit button, and now I'm going to make the rubric. So what's important with that is that question type needs to be a grid, and I don't really need a title on this because it's very obvious. I'm going to just take this off. I mean, you could put rubric if you wanted to, but you don't really need to. Now notice it defaults to 5 columns, and you can see in mine I have 4 points right here. So I'm going to change my columns to 4. And notice it defaults to number at 1, 2, 3, 4, and I go 4, 3, 2, 1. So I just want to mimic what I have. So I'm going to change this up so that it works with my own rubric. And then we have the rows, and the rows are my categories. So I have 3 categories, but you can certainly add more. And I'm going to add those in. Again, once I hit return, it puts in a new row, and I'm going to make this required because I want to remember to fill this out and not fill it out, and done. Now the last thing I like to do, especially with oral reports, is I like a section so I can add comments. So I'm going to add one more section. You could do a text or a paragraph text depending on how long your comments are. And this here I'm going to title comments. And I do not make it required because sometimes I just don't have any comments to make, but I try to make comments because feedback's always good. And then done. So I have those there. Now I'm ready to email my form to my smartphone.